It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Yes, it's the Full Court Press podcast edition.
We do exist.
Apologies for not being over the air live on a Thursday afternoon. Having some technical difficulties. But rather than just calling it a day and throwing up our hands and go home, we're like, well, we've done all this research. We've done all this prep. Let's still put something out there for our audience.
Mama didn't raise no quitter.
Something like that. So Jason and I are still going to go through what we've got planned on the Full Court Press today. Instead of 2 1-hour podcasts, we're just going to throw it all into one. I don't know how long it's going to go.
Yeah, we're just going to go until we get through all of our topics, and that's that.
So let's, again, apologies for not getting this in real time, but so here's the quick docket for the day. Interesting comments from University of Wyoming's athletic director about conference expansion. Something definitely more regional of note. There's these position ranks continue to be put out from the Mountain West. What are those latest positions or any Aggies on those lists? We'll continue to reveal the top 25 Aggies for 2025 and a couple other things that we'll get into as well.
Yeah, UTEP names their starting quarterback. Utah State soccer playing tonight. We're going to continue our opponent preview series for football. Also, if you're interested in applying to be the athletic director of Utah State, we have the criteria for you. Very thorough, very specific, very not, I'm being facetious, I can't keep that up, but not at all super generic things. But as long as you have a bachelor's degree, and if you have a master's degree, that helps, you might have a chance.
Yeah, so that has been revealed and made public, and so we'll go through
That's part
some
of the
those
bureaucratic
criteria.
red tape is they have to post it, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Which is,
they already have people who are interested. They already have people who they're talking to. But now they have to file, make it officially available for people to officially submit their interest and their resume.
Yeah, this is the things that just slows it up, and it's maybe I shouldn't get too political, but it's regulations that are like, why do we have this one again? Like, there's regulations that make sense, Make sure your food isn't poisonous to people when you put it out. Like, regulations like you have to post the job posting online, or it probably used to be in the newspaper. You probably had to post it in the newspaper once upon a time.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, that's bureaucratic red tape, and it's what's making it taking a little longer to hire a new AD. But let's talk about a different athletic director.
Yes, one who already has a job.
Yeah, one that already has a job. Wyoming's athletic director, which I didn't write down what their name is. So
Tom Burman.
Tom Burman, good name. But just had some interesting comments about because when the Mountain West was you first had the Pac-12 invading the Mountain West. It was like, all right, who's the Mountain West going to add? You got to replace, 5 schools. What can you do? And the North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana and Montana State always got brought up eventually. They're FCS schools, very successful FCS football programs for all of them, decent basketball programs for most of them as well. But the playoffs perennially have all of or most of all those 4 teams in them.
Yes.
Often in the championship game. So they get brought in, into conversations about being brought into the Mountain West. And Wyoming talked about, they're the closest geographically to those schools. Their athletic director talked about, adding them to the Mountain West.
Yeah, so he was on the Nate Brown Show, which is located in South Dakota. And apparently he has done some interviews with the Wyoming AD in the past, so they have a bit of a relationship. And
we had our good friend of the show, Jason Walker from Montana, from the Jason Walker Show in Montana.
Oh, that's right. We've done that before.
That was way back when Danny Sprinkle came over here, though.
But he was talking, this Nate Brown, who's the host of the radio program, was projecting that he foresaw that there would be more changes in college football. that the most resource-rich schools will break away and do their own thing. And so that kind of sets up the response from Wyoming's athletic director, Tom Burman. And part of his response, there was a cell phone connection that wasn't great. So I'm going to kind of summarize what he said there, and then we'll pick up to where we'll hear straight from his mouth. But in essence, he says North Dakota State, South Dakota State, both the Montana schools, he's basically saying they are different than pretty much the rest of FCS.
For a school like Wyoming, it makes a lot of sense if there was a way that a few of those schools joined the Mountain West, but it didn't make sense for everybody in the Mountain West, and that's why there wasn't an opportunity for them to join. But in the long run, I think there will be a change, and I think there will be a division that is created where the top 40-ish schools separate, and they, in my opinion, they'll collectively bargain with student athletes. They will be employees. And those are budgets in the $250 to $300 million range. And then the rest of us will reconfigure where we are. And I wouldn't be surprised if that allowed for the Dakotas and the Montana schools to make some decisions.
Yeah. So again, Tom Burman on the Nate Brown show. And it sounds like there were some within the Mountain West who were interested in adding the Dakotas and the Montana schools. But not everybody was on board with that. But he sees a future where eventually, regionally, it will make sense where they will all be together.
I think the interesting idea there, and I don't know if I thought about it a ton, the idea of the Power Four breaking off, that's always kind of been around. And it does feel like they may inevitably move toward that. Of course, we talked about this yesterday where that might hurt them more than they think. It may not actually be as smart a financial move as they think it is. But you could end up creating more divisions within Division One, or maybe they'll create a super division or something like that. And we've talked about collective bargaining, and it may end up making more sense for the Power Four to collective bargain, where they're a lot closer to professional sports than, say, Utah State or the Pac-12 or the Mountain West. Where those, when you're in the Pac-12 and Mountain West, you're like on the fringe where like they're paying players and they have enough money to, pay their football and basketball teams. So they're above a lot of FBS and especially FCS and even a lot of Division I basketball, but they're not to the stage of the Power Four where they're basically employees. They're basically full-time, semi-professional athletes, working toward trying to go to the NFL. So it might make sense for that section of college football to eventually collective bargaining, but maybe there is still some, again, you'd have basically professional, then the rest of FBS or whatever's left of FBS is a kind of a semi-pro where there's some payment being thrown around. But how this all wraps back into, kind of what I was thinking with these comments is that may, if you split off the top 40 of FBS and then you have the rest, the other 90 teams, do they then kind of reach in? Does that bring in the top of the FCS into this new division? Is that what ends up happening? That, maybe that ends up happening. That's where maybe the Dakota and Montana schools, but at that point we're getting into such a messy, thing with college football. It would be completely unrecognizable. It wouldn't be just adding the Dakota and Montana schools to the Mountain West. It would be creating a whole new Division I. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about the next 10, 15 years, because I think there's going to be a radical change in the next 10 to 15 years. What we have right now isn't tenable. Nobody's really happy. And so ultimately, they're going to have to figure out some kind of long-term solution. And it's going to involve collective bargaining. It's going to involve a whole bunch of different things.
Well, we may be back on the 106.9 FM and the 1390 AM.
Oh, are we?
And on the stream. So if we are, roll call. We know we had some issues in the first hour, and apologies for that. But let us know, 435-339-0321, if you were getting things coming through. If you missed it, we were just talking about the athletic director from Wyoming talking about the potential for Montana State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State being a part of the program.
So let's play those comments again since we're just getting back on air so they kind of know where we're coming from.
Yeah, the potential of having them as a part of the Mountain West Conference. So again, here are his comments. This was Tom Burman making comments on the Nate Brown Show. It was a radio program in South Dakota, and it's kind of sending some interesting shockwaves around Mountain West territory. But here are those comments once again.
For a school like Wyoming, it makes a lot of sense if there was a way that a few of those schools joined the Mountain West, but it didn't make sense for everybody in the Mountain West, and that's why there wasn't an opportunity for them to join. But in the long run, I think there will be a change, and I think there will be a division that is created where the top 40-ish schools separate, and they, in my opinion, they'll collectively bargain with student athletes. They will be employees, and those are budgets in the $250 to $300 million range. And then the rest of us will reconfigure where we are. And I wouldn't be surprised if that allowed for the Dakotas and the Montana schools to make some decisions.
Yeah. So again, would that make sense regionally? I mean, if these top 40 most resource-rich entities break away and do their own thing, that we have a totally different reimagining of college football. Yeah, maybe. There might be some things that make sense there, but would you put Utah State in the same territory as Wyoming, as the Montana schools, the Dakotas? Would you put them in with, would you include Weber State then at that point? I mean, if you're going to include those schools, why not add Weber State to the mix? Or do you still try to be in a little bit, lack of a better term, higher class and stick with teams that are, in the Pac-12 that have a little bit more resources that are competing at a little bit of a different level right now?
Yeah, it's just kind of an awkward conversation because, as I was saying earlier, I think before we managed to get back on air, like the Pac-12 is on a different level from, there is a gap between the Mountain West, but it's not a massive gap. But there is a massive gap between the Pac-12 schools and a lot of these higher FCS schools. Sure, they have a lot of success, but even Utah State, who has the lowest budget in the the new Pac-12, they have like double or triple the budget of some of these highly successful FCS schools. So they are just on a different level. So if you end up, combining the FBS, kind of a remaining FBS, where if those, top 40, 50 schools in the Power Four split off, and if you try and recreate a new division by adding some of the top FCS schools, I don't know, you end up kind of where, it's not like Utah State and the Pac-12 would have much choice in this matter, but it would be undoing a lot of the work that the Pac-12 was trying to do, where they're trying to set themselves up and be on the doorstep of the Power Four. And, if the Power Four breaks away, then basically they're stuck on the outside. A lot of revenue gets lost with the Power Four splitting away. So I don't know. Things could go wrong pretty quickly, and Utah State would once again be on the edge of being on the right side of conference realignment, but they would once again, be on the outside.
Yeah, look, it's not the end of the world for me to see Utah State in the same space as some of the teams in their geographic region. So long as does it make sense? Are they going to be competitive? Just because you're close doesn't necessarily mean that's best. And does it make more sense for Utah State to be in a league with San Diego State and Fresno State and Boise State?
Yeah.
Or does it make sense for them to be more along the lines of Weber State and Utah Valley?
Yeah, and the problem is that they're being close to those teams. Like back in 1920, it made sense for them to play all those teams all the time because they were all on the same level then.
Right.
Things are just different now. It's much better for Utah State to be in the league that it's currently in. So yeah, I don't know if this thing where maybe they bring in FCS teams to a remade FBS 10, 15 years down the line, if there is some sort of split off and collective bargaining and semi-pro league made out of the Power Four. But yeah, I would echo that it's not the end of the world as long as Utah State is able to put forth a good football season and able to create an entertaining product. There's always going to be value there because look, they already don't interact a whole lot with the Power Four anyway, at least in football. They play 1, maybe 2 games against them, and if you got rid of those games, would you really care that much? The biggest impact would be financially. That's the biggest thing that would change for Utah State is financially, it would hurt. And there would obviously, if the Power Four separated, again, it's not a good thing in any way, but you could still have Aggie football. It would just look different.
The only thing that might be the most intriguing to me is which of those schools who are now in the club are not in the club. And so are any of those regionally in this area that now, like Utah State and Cal, Utah State and Washington? I don't know. Would some of those former Pac-12 schools, would they be in the mix to be in that top 40, or do they get kind of left behind? And do they then reshuffle the deck with what's regionally makes sense at a competitive level that makes sense? Yeah,
and that's something that could be the saving grace because, you mentioned the top 40. There's 50, 60 Power 4 teams, something like that. 4 conferences averaging around 12 or 14 members each. So, there are some schools that get left behind, schools that have that, be a lot like Oregon State and Washington State. It's not the cream of the crop, but good programs that can make things work. And, a new FBS. I don't know what to call it. A new FBS? Oh, whatever. I don't know what to call it. I keep inventing names for this. The left behind FBS. You could make something work with that. As much as you don't want to see, because again, we talked about this yesterday, where it's the Power Four breaking off is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for them. I think they're going to ultimately want to do it, but it's not a good thing for them financially. Not a good thing for them exposure. Because if you leave behind 80% of FBS, sure, all of the numbers show that people mostly watch those Power 4 teams, but there's a lot of people and a lot of viewers you'd be disenfranchising.
Yeah.
So that'd be my warning. I know I've already gone over that before, but don't divide college football. Because I know we're talking about how Utah State would survive in that instance, that worst case scenario, but it shouldn't have to happen to begin with. We shouldn't have to be talking about that. We should be talking about Utah State being able to find a niche in the Pac-12, be able to make a long-term solution work by being on the edge of the Power Four and be able to be nationally relevant to a degree. Obviously, you're not going to be a Power Four program because they've just about slammed the doors on that proposition.
Right. Yeah.
With how they're consolidating. Utah State would have to find $100 million extra per year to join that club, which, unless somebody wins the lottery a million times, we're probably not going to have that. We're not going to have that happen. But that's something that would be great for Utah State, and you'd hate to see the progress they've made ruined by a bunch of, selfish executives on the other side of the country. So it's kind of an uncomfortable thing to get into this conversation anyway, because I know there's a lot of Utah State fans that are sensitive about talking about Utah State's place in the pecking order, where it's there's a reality of where they are. They're growing, but there is a reality that they're on, unfortunately, a lower level. But ultimately, Utah State can find a successful niche within where they are, where they got a great basketball program, they can have a football program, they can get into the playoff, and that's their path to national relevance. Again, you're never going to be Alabama, But look at what Boise State's doing. They're a nationally relevant brand. Gonzaga, San Diego State are nationally relevant brands. That is where Utah State can be, so long as things don't go south in other areas.
Yeah, very true.
That are unfortunately out of their control. Utah State is doing, like, as far as what they can control, they're doing a really good job. And they are elevating themselves. But there are some things that are out of their control. So we'll see what happens with those.
One thing we need to do this hour is try to cram everything that we had planned for both hours into this 1 hour that we're together, hour plus for those on the podcast. But let's get to our next player on our Aggies, top 25 Aggies. Of course, if you want to weigh in on this whole comments from the Wyoming AD about the Montana schools, the Dakota schools potentially moving into the Mountain West, let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line 435-339-0321. But moving things along, let's talk about the next player on our top 25 Aggies of 2025 as we get closer and closer to the start of the football season.
The Cache Valley Media Group's annual Top 25 Aggies continues today with another player reveal. The next player on the list is tight end Josh Sterzer. Sterzer is one of the most experienced players on the roster. The 6'3", 230-pound tight end has played 42 games in an Aggie uniform, dating all the way back to the 2020 season. Last year, Sterzer had his most productive season with 20 catches for 202 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Josh Sterzer is a great guy. I've had an opportunity to interact with him multiple times, but he's also a very good tight end, very experienced, and he, along with Brock Lane, two great tight ends for Utah State to have on that offensive front, guys who are that are versatile in what they can do for Utah State. Run blocking, pass catching, it can help the offense in multiple ways. I mean, what an asset for Utah State to have both of these experienced guys at the tight end position. But for Sterzer, here's a guy that's been around for a little while. It seemed like there was always kind of somebody ahead of him that had opportunities to get maybe a few more snaps or a few more catches. But then when injuries have happened, he has stepped into that opportunity and made the most of it. So that'll be interesting to watch him, how he gets used this season and how healthy he is and how he can help that offense with an experienced quarterback who likes throwing to tight ends.
Yeah, and I hope that Utah State is able to utilize these tight ends in interesting ways. And I don't mean just throwing to them more, because just throwing to your tight end more isn't utilizing your tight end effectively. It's using their versatility. Where I think my pet theory is them using 2 tight end sets. Trying to bring both of those guys out to create great running formations where you can use Bryson Barnes as a runner, or obviously your running backs, maybe even throwing good old-fashioned tight end around plays. But being able to pass out of those 2 tight end sets, if they can pass effectively out of 2 tight end sets, then they're going to cause some serious problems for opposing defenses who, can't go with, base formations that account for the tight ends, heavier that account for the tight ends who can, block and cause problems for the defense in terms of the Aggies' ability to run the ball. But if they go heavy, then they get passed on. And if they go light to cover the pass, then suddenly they can't stop the run. If Utah State can find a niche there with having 1 or 2 tight end sets, or, bring one of them in as a fullback, like, they could cause some serious problems for Mountain West teams who will not be ready for that style of football. So that's the way I think they should get used more. Like, if they end up blocking as much, if not more, than they catch passes, they can still be effective if they're being used in these formations. Now, I'm not paid to coach, so I'm not going to say they have to do that, and that's the only way they can be successful, but I think that's certainly something they have to have explored.
Well, and that'll be interesting to see this offense, how they utilize these tight ends, because we have seen in the past Utah State has great tight end talent. And it seems like that was always one of our questions coming into the season. How will the Utah State offense utilize their tight ends? And we always felt like there's more available there. But the offensive play calling style under Blake Anderson was to maybe not fully utilize the asset of the tight end. Like, we thought that based on the talent and the ability, this should be exploited more, and it was always kind of underutilized. So this will be interesting this season to see how the tight ends get used.
Well, it just feels like colleges tend to underutilize tight ends anyway, just because you get all these spread offenses. Just wide receiver heavy. There's so many more great wide receivers than there are great tight ends at the college level. So teams just kind of forget if they have a tight end and just throw to a wide receiver. And mind you, you don't need a great tight end, pass catching tight end to be good in your offense. We've seen fantastic Utah State offenses that don't even look at their tight end. So you don't have to throw to your tight end to be successful. But when you've got really experienced guys like Sterzer and Lane, take advantage of them. And again, it doesn't just have to be throw to them 50 times. If each of them only catch 25 passes apiece, that would honestly be really good volume for them. They don't need to be these leading the nation or leading the Mountain West in receptions. They need to be able to create chaos in matchup problems in the defense. And that's going to be a little deeper than just how many receptions did they have in any given game.
Yeah. Don't just be extensions to the offensive line.
Yeah, because they're half offensive linemen.
Right.
Like, that's half their job, is to be offensive linemen, so they're only being a wide receiver half the time.
Excuse me, 0694. Texting in, seems like Sterzer is often overlooked. We tend to focus on Brock Lane more, but Sterzer is equally good, and it's made his share of game-changing plays. Hope we use both guys a lot. And Brock Lane, speaking of him, he was revealed as a top 5 tight end in the Mountain West for this upcoming season. Yeah. He was revealed at number 3.
And number 3. And I think we overlook Josh Sterzer because he's not as athletic as Brock Lane. I think that's the thing. Or maybe it could just be that Brock Lane just seems to be more of a fluid athlete. It looks better when he's running and all that. And Josh Sterzer just doesn't. Again, it's about appearances. I mean, honestly, maybe if you lined him up and ran the numbers, and Josh Sterzer might be as fast and as strong and as agile, but maybe it's just Brock Lane gives off that appearance that he's a better receiver. Because Sterzer has several times proved that he can be an effective threat in the pass game and has proved he can be an effective blocker as well. But yeah, Brock Lane has just been seen as having more potential.
All right, quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. We'll be right back. If you want to weigh in, 435-339-0321. Okay, so while those commercials say they're playing and they're not playing, let me tell you about Young Power Sports of Logan. They've got their demo days, Indian demo days coming up. That's coming up on the 26th and the 27th. Coming up from 12 to 6 is when that'll take place. It's just that one time a year that they hold demo days for Indian motorcycles. And it's going to be at Young Power Sports of Logan. You can ride the newest Indian motorcycle lineup. Indian motorcycle riding experience is going to be rolling into town. All test drives get a free gift. You can take an extra $1,000 off the sale price or negotiated price on all Indian motorcycles. They're also going to feed you when you go and check it out. They'll have burgers, hot dogs, drinks of unreal prices that you won't see again until next year. Again, that's on the 26th and 27th at Young Power Sports of Logan. So continuing on, a couple of the things we wanted to get to today. Utah State, we're talking a lot about the Aggies. Utah State women's soccer, they're in action, and another road game tonight for USU. They're at Pacific, and kind of a late kick time for the Aggies this evening.
Yeah, a lot like their first game against Washington State. I think that was also an 8 or even 8:30 kick time. It's a West Coast game, so they're kicking off at 7 or 7:30 local time. Much like Utah State will have 7 o'clock local time games, actually for the first time, like basically ever, because they have lights in their stadium now.
Yeah, it's true.
They can play night games instead of 2 p.m. games, which should help attendance. But yeah, this is a game that last year, Pacific was not a good team last year, and Utah State kind of showed that. They beat Pacific 9-3, although weirdly enough, that 3 goals by Pacific was impressive because Utah State didn't give up multiple goals to like hardly any teams all year. But they also scored 9, so it was a 6-goal win for the Aggies. Pacific currently 0-2 on the year, losses to, I think it was Sacramento State and UC Davis. The Aggies are obviously 1-0. They defeated Washington State a week ago today on the road. They played both of these teams at home last year, so these are actually return trips, both of these games they're playing. The Aggies will host Kansas on Sunday, so there's a couple of games this weekend. But yeah, it should be a game that I would expect the Aggies to win. Potentially score a ton of goals. We'll see just how many. I mean, it's most of the same offensive players, and I think the offense will probably be better than it was last year. And if you scored 9 goals against Pacific last year, can you do something similar? Mind you, it's on the road, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But yeah, this should be an Aggie victory. We'll keep an eye on it. They might have a little bit more goal scoring. It also depends if Pacific improved. They were a 2-win team last year. They won like 2-17-1. This year, not off to a great start, but if they're anything close to what they were last year, and if the Aggies are anything close to what they were offensively last year, which I think they will be, yeah, you could see 6, 7, 8 goals in this one.
Yeah, great opportunity to work in some of the younger or less experienced players, give them opportunities to see the field and get some early opportunities in the season.
Well, I think especially for the defense, I know we just talked about the offense, but the defense is still playing multiple freshmen. And so getting them more minutes, as many minutes as you can. They had a great debut, pitched a shutout against Washington State, but you can't sit on your laurels. You got to be getting better and better because they're going to face better and better teams. And so they've got to get in sync, get more minutes together, be able to, because the defense, they got to be so in unison. Got to know exactly what they're doing. They've also got a new goalkeeper. So a lot of players that haven't played together before are having to obviously be a cohesive unit and are having to live up to the legacy of a defense that averaged like half a goal allowed per game for 3 years. So, and Utah State obviously trying to live up to what they did last year, which was, probably I don't have an exclusive or an encyclopedic knowledge of all of Utah State soccer, but I'd imagine last year was their best year ever in a number of different ways.
I would imagine it would have to be up there.
Yeah, they did have some pretty dang good seasons in the WAC, though. I will say that. They were pretty dominant there and got to the NCAA tournament. But, being as highly ranked as they were, I don't think they ever came close to that in the WAC. So, but yeah, game 2. More to build on, more to get done for this Aggies team. And what should be a win, we'll see how it goes exactly, though.
8003 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Is a women's soccer game viewable anywhere?
ESPN Plus.
So I just pulled up the Utah State schedule on the Utah State Athletics website. And yeah, it looks like there is a way to watch on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, some of these non-conference games are going to be on ESPN Plus. Probably a lot of the ones, especially the ones they play against teams in Utah, but also these teams that are in the West Coast Conference. I don't know where the Kansas game will be on TV, but you can...
Mountain West Network.
Mountain West Network. Since they're the home team, they'll probably do that one. But you can also go to that game.
Yeah.
If you want. I forget.
Sunday at 1.
1 o'clock. I will probably be busy. I've got church. Sorry.
You've got commitments.
I've got previous commitments. Although we are going to like 9:30 church. I don't know if that's this week or next week. I should probably double check that.
Everything changes when school gets back.
I know that's exactly why it's changing. So,
so shifting gears, still talking about Utah State athletics though. News is come out that the criteria that's out there for Utah State athletics for their new director of athletics, the AD, basically the job description is now out there. And the online form to submit your application is also available. So, Jason, are you dusting off the old resume? Getting ready to go here?
I haven't updated my resume in a while.
That's probably a good thing for me that you haven't updated your resume.
If I said,
I would just dust off the old resume.
I updated it yesterday. You'd be worried if I'd done that.
Wait a minute.
And I think the only reason I updated like a year ago is because I just happened to see it and I was like, oh, I don't know, see what's on there. And I tinker whenever I see it because, I tinker with it. But yeah, I've not exactly brushed up my resume in a while because, been fine where I'm at.
So,
but I might consider applying for the AD job. I don't know.
There you go. I mean, it probably pays better than I do.
It probably does. So,
but it's broken down in a couple different segments here. In this announcement, it opens up just talking about Utah State, its history, what it is as an institution, what the community is like, and it points out that it is transitioning into the Pac-12. There will be one season in the Mountain West, then transitions into the Pac-12. So that's important to keep in mind. And then ends with this: 7 core values define and govern the department's actions: trustworthiness, respect, unity, excellence, accountability, great attitude, and service.
Yeah, I just want to ask this though, Eric. I know there's a whole lot to break down in this. What are the odds that the eventual athletic director will ever read those words?
Fair question. I don't know.
Like, who's looking at this job listing?
They may have, whomever it is, has probably glanced it over, but they just probably see there's an opening. I'm going to apply.
Yeah, like they're not reading this. They're like,
because this is a pretty lengthy job description here.
Yeah, and it ends up feeling like as much of a press release as it is an actual job listing, because they know they have to put this out.
They absolutely have.
But
to
they
post
already
it.
had a bunch of candidates in mind. They're likely seeking out candidates. Obviously, there's people reaching out because it's an athletic director job for a future Pac-12 school. That is a job that a lot of administrators, good administrators around the country want.
Right.
It's just funny that, like, I don't think any of them are actually looking at the job listing. They probably already have contacts to reach out to Utah State and be like, I want the job.
Right. Now, posting this now makes it more formal for those.
Yeah, basically.
Those
Did they put
people.
out the same thing for the president recently?
Yeah.
Or they put out a form to apply. I don't know if they had an official job listing.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing anything like this for the
They're
university
taking
president.
applications, and I thought about applying for that too. But
So there's a position summary, there's key duties and responsibilities, which you can
what
pretty much...
are their responsibilities?
well,
Be the athletic director.
yeah, a lot of leadership stuff, keeping compliance, ensure academic excellence, things like that. Have collaboration across campus and the community.
Makes me wonder, like, what does an AD even do, like, on the day-to-day? Because they're getting paid a lot of money to do. I'm not entirely sure exactly what. Like,
Well,
they have to be
duties and
doing
responsibilities.
They
lays it
have
out
to be.
for you
They
there,
have to be
Jason.
doing something important. At
You
least
have
I
to
hope they're
manage
doing.
a budget, multi-million-dollar budget. You got to deal with facilities. You got to deal with
So
student athletes.
So are they sitting
coaches.
down, like, doing spreadsheets and talking with athletes? Like, is that their day-to-day, or are they just like
Partially.
or are they just professional delegators, which
It's
can
a
be
little
a
bit of
very
both.
which can be a very important thing. Knowing
Yeah.
how to delegate and delegate properly is a skill. But, like, is that it, or is it a much more hands-on position? Like, I've always wondered that, because, like,
yeah.
they have to be doing something every day, otherwise, athletic departments.
There's a lot of
wouldn't run nearly as smoothly.
stakeholders that are involved here, between the student athletes, the coaches, the university institution, the community, donors, the NCAA,
So
conference affiliations.
They just go to a bunch of meetings with donors and whatnot.
They're just playing golf.
Yeah.
No, but there are a few things that did stand out to me. There are minimum requirements, and then there is a host of preferred qualifications. So the minimum requirements to apply: you have to have a bachelor's degree. You have to have equivalent to 5 years of progressively responsible experience in a senior athletic administration position, and then prior NCAA Division I collegiate or professional athletics experience. So this can't be somebody who is in a management type position in, like, television or marketing and slide in and be an athletic director. You have to have had experience in Division I collegiate athletics.
Basically, they're hiring somebody out of somebody else's athletics department.
Yes, exactly.
That is ultimately what's happening.
So those are the minimum requirements. Then they have the preferred qualifications, which is a list of about 30 different qualifications. They do prefer that you have a master's degree. They prefer that you have 10 or more years of successful managerial experience with evidence of increased responsibility over time in collegiate athletics. It is interesting. I'm not going to go through all these qualifications, but it is interesting how many times evidence is used in the preferred qualifications.
So I can't just submit a bogus, resume.
It's like, yeah, I'm good at fundraising. Oh, what's your evidence of that? I've been in leadership before. Well, what's your evidence of that?
I'm going to submit a resume. John Johnson. I've been the AD at a prestigious college for 30 years. I raised $30 billion for a national championship winning golf team. Like, what's your evidence for this? I got a fortune cookie.
Experience with conference realignment and commitment to guiding USU into a new era of athletic competitiveness within the Pac-12.
Every administrator has experience with conference realignment because it's happened with everybody.
It's happened in a lot of institutions. And just picking and choosing a few here that stood out to me. Significant senior level management experience, which includes experience with financial strategy, budget, strategic planning, and others. Evidence of high integrity and ethical standards. So how do you provide evidence of high integrity and ethical standards? Letters of recommendation, I suppose.
That's about it, because it's kind of like, it's kind of like proving a negative in a sense, except it's not it's like a positive, but it's like the only way you can show integrity is that you don't have it by doing bad things. You can never like prove good integrity, because it's like, I've never done anything.
Reviews.
But performance reviews can be BS.
That's true. They can.
Like, there are people who have gotten the most glowing reviews of their integrity, and then, a week later they're getting arrested for something. And it's like, you can't prove your integrity. You can just kind of like show it over time. Like, you can't prove it to somebody you don't know. That's kind of the big thing. You prove it to somebody you know. Like, if you know somebody for 30 years and they're always trustworthy, yeah, but like, you can't prove your integrity in a job interview.
A couple others, evidence of strong community relationships or the ability to build strong community relationships.
That's one important thing, because the person they're going to hire is not going to be from Cache Valley, most likely. And most likely not from Utah. So they got to know how to build a relationship with the community.
Demonstrated ability and strong commitment to fundraising. Demonstrated commitment to fostering a respectful and welcoming culture that values all individuals and perspectives. Evidence of effective leadership and the ability to manage and motivate others in a manner that values and supports individuals from all backgrounds and experience. So there were several people who filed reports against Diana Sabo that would suggest she did not demonstrate that same level of leadership. So there's a host of, there's a bit long list here, but the bottom line here is the search committee is going to start reviewing applications on August 27th. So that time is quickly approaching.
It's best get your application in.
Yes, it's time to find the new AD for Utah State. It's moving forward. That's what's encouraging. Is it is moving forward. It's a process. It's maybe a little bit delayed. We are going to have an opportunity to speak with the interim AD next week.
Yeah, we've got an interview scheduled tentatively for next Thursday. That's the
Which
plan.
is the day after all these deadlines these applications are supposed to be due.
Oh, interesting.
The 27th is next Wednesday.
That's true. So, yeah, we can ask them, like, all right, which one stood out to you the most? Like, all right, who's got the best application, Sandy? So, yeah, we'll have that for you next week. Just to get an idea for how this is all going, how the athletic department has been doing in the interim since Diana Sabo left and went to Maryland. That's obviously they have to keep plugging along. Things have to keep happening in the athletics department. They got a football season to prepare for and all that stuff.
Yes, they do.
Which things seem to have been running perfectly smoothly. Interim AD seems to be doing her job because things haven't fallen apart. So
that we know of.
I can't imagine things have gone all that badly. So, but the biggest thing obviously is working toward a new athletic director. I don't know what role Sandy has in doing that.
Yeah, we'll find out next week.
Yeah, we can ask her about it.
All right, quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, we'll preview another opponent for Utah State as we get closer and closer to the start of the season and reveal the next player on our list of top 25 Aggies for 2025.
We're here with Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center, and I just wanted to say, welcome to Northern Utah. We couldn't be happier to bring Dollar Loan Center to Northern Utah with new locations open in Logan and Ogden. We've been serving Utah and Nevada with our short-term signature loans for over 27 years, and I can't wait to get started here.
What makes DLC's loans different than the rest?
Our short-term signature loans have the payday and title lenders panicking. In almost every instance, we're about half the cost of most lenders. Your first loan at Dollar Loan Center is even on the house. There's no application fee or any fees for that matter, and the first week of interest is on us. Just give us a try and see how much you can save.
Thanks, Chuck. Check out Dollar Loan Center and apply for a signature loan up to $5,000 online at don'tbebroke.com. New locations in Logan and Ogden.
Licensed by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
Hey, business owners, when it comes to your commercial insurance coverage, you deserve the best. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. As an independent auto owners agency, we have access to many carriers and will give you options. We work hard to protect your business because you've worked hard to build it. Let's give your insurance coverage a fresh look. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
This is Deputy Brad Nelson with the Cache County Sheriff's Office. Schools are back in session throughout the valley, which means kids are going to be out on the roads during the morning and afternoon commutes. Law enforcement will be patrolling school zones where the speed limits are 20 miles per hour. Also, watch out for crosswalks and crossing guards. We're asking citizens to be alert while driving and help us keep kids safe. Thank you.
This is Cache County Fire District Chief Brady George. Due to ongoing fire dangers, fire restriction orders have been increased to Stage 2 restrictions. These include the following acts. Building, maintaining, attending, or using fire or campfire is prohibited, including charcoal grills, pellet grills, or ash-producing fuels. All other restrictions remain in place, including no smoking except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. No discharging or using fireworks, tracer ammunition, or other pyrotechnic devices, including exploding targets. Cache County Fire District urges all residents and visitors to use caution during outdoor activities. Preventing wildfires and protecting the beauty of Cache County is a shared responsibility.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Final days to nominate somebody to receive a complete home heating and air conditioning system with the Feel the Love at Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning. You have until August 31st to nominate somebody in need to receive a fully installed heating and air conditioning unit free of charge. Nominate them by going to mtnvalleyhvac.com. Click on the Feel the Love tab. Again, only a few more days left to get those nominations in. A couple quick texts on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 7854. It's funny as you read the list, Eric, it seems like all the things that they're looking for are things that were missing with the last administration.
Sometimes you target things you didn't have before.
And sometimes you want to emphasize things that were lacking previously. 3714, what do the two of you think are the odds the Aggies will hire a current sitting AD, somebody like Kent Haslam at Montana?
I think... Well, I don't know. It depends if they want to go in a similar direction with how they hire Diana Sabo, where they hire somebody with Power 4 experience. If they're going in that direction, they're not going to hire a sitting AD because they're going to hire like a senior deputy administrator from some power conference school. If they decide to go, so that's one path. It's kind of like when you're looking at hiring a head coach. Hire an assistant from a Power 4 school or hire a head coach from a program that's
air quotes lower level school and give them the opportunity to move up.
So I think they're more likely to go in the direction of kind of that Power 4 just because, they need someone who's had experience with realignment. You're more likely to find that within, the power conferences where they've been in a lot of these rooms where they're, working on conference realignment, working with TV executives, things like that. May have been involved with the Pac-12. There was a lot of realignment there. I don't think you find a lot of that success, a lot of that with, some AD in like Conference USA or the Sun Belt. Unless you feel like they're showing the kind of ambition that, because the other part of this is just having a good vision and being a good fundraiser. And if you have all of those, then maybe you can just catch up in some other respects. Because no candidate is going to be able to fill out every single one of these things perfectly. You're not going to find the perfect candidate. If they were the perfect candidate, well, frankly, they're not applying to Utah State. They're probably applying somewhere else. But I think you can find good candidates that fill out certain, criteria, better than others, because like, again, the Power Four, they're going to fill out criteria about, realignment and, maybe experience, the kind of experience they want, but you may get a really good up and coming AD at a lower school, that may have that fire and drive that you want, that you may not get as much of from a Power Four administrator.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are two different ways you can go. There's multiple ways, but I kind of like the idea based on maybe some of the struggles that Utah State has had the last few years here. Find somebody who has experience in the big chair, knows how to hire a coach, and be involved in the community. But you can find a senior associate AD who has some of those same responsibilities. So it doesn't have to be necessarily an AD in another school moving over here. It could be somebody who's been involved in those discussions, maybe not always having the last say, final say, but certainly involved in those discussions and understand where Utah State is headed in its history. Let's move on to our next player that we're going to reveal in our top 25 Aggies for 2025, looking at various different positions and highlighting the players who we think will have the most impact this upcoming season.
The Cache Valley Media Group's annual Top 25 Aggies continues today with another player reveal. The next player to be revealed is defensive tackle Gabriel Iniguez. Iniguez stands 6'1", weighs in at 290 pounds, and returns as one of the leaders from last year's defense. He started all 12 games at defensive tackle, earning honorable mention All-Mountain West after finishing the season with 29 tackles, 0.5 sacks, and 1.5 tackles for loss. He'll wear the number 10 jersey for the Aggies this year.
I've always enjoyed my conversations with Gabe Iniguez. Fun personality, but when it comes to playing football, he's the guy that he's not afraid to get in there and mix it up on that defensive line. Defensive tackles, sometimes they don't always have the most gaudy stats, but they certainly have a major impact on the game. That first line of defense in slowing down opposing running game or trying to put pressure to push that offensive line back and cause havoc on the opposing quarterback. Gabe Iniguez isn't necessarily the biggest guy, but he is a guy that likes to get in there and mix it up. And I think he really was an impact player for Utah State in an otherwise kind of a struggling year last year on defense. But Gabe Iniguez was a bright spot for the Aggies, and excited to see him continue that role this upcoming season.
Yeah, he's a good player, and I like how you bring up these a great guy to talk to. And it's weird how defensive tackles can be that, because they'll be like these teddy bear personalities, but then you go out on the field and they're like monsters.
Yes. And
they're like the last person you ever want to, if you're a quarterback and suddenly you see a 300-pound, defensive lineman bearing down on you, like your soul just left your body, because you don't want to ever have to deal with them. But they're, amazing people off the field. So yeah, Iniguez, he's one of the leaders of the team. He was one of the leaders of the team last year. Came into the season, the off season as one of the leaders. He was one of the guys that went down to media days, for Mountain West media days. So he is going to be a very key player for this team. Very, very big presence, literally in some cases, for the Aggies on and off the field.
Yeah, he represents Utah State well. He represents the institution well. He represents himself well. But he also gets in there and plays hard and tries to get other guys to lead the defense. Here was a guy that we've seen in some of these jersey reveals. He's one of the guys up there talking about his other teammates. So somebody that this coaching staff believes in. He's demonstrated that. and I'm excited to see what he can do for Utah State on the defensive end for 2025. 3714 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. Diana was never an AD before. That's true. She wasn't. She was in the athletic department at Ohio State. She was in the Big Ten conference on their administrative staff. And her time at Utah State was her first time as an AD sitting in the big chair. And so, yeah, sometimes there are challenges with that. Somebody who hasn't been an AD before, they think they know what it takes and think they can be the right person for the job, but sometimes they have to learn as they go. And frankly, a lot of people have to learn on the job. But what is Utah State's appetite? Are they willing to let somebody learn on the job again, or do they want somebody who has that experience in the big chair?
Yeah. Well, I think she learned pretty quick. Things didn't go too bad while she was here. I know there were some rocky points. You could see where she was learning. Had some ups and downs there. But yeah, like that's an example of you can find someone who hasn't been in the big chair, but that's where like you have something they have to work on. They don't have experience in this criteria that Utah State's looking for. The same as if you got an AD, but the only way you're getting a sitting AD is if they're at a school that's lower, and there's areas where they don't meet as much of the criteria in other areas. So you're kind of picking and choosing which ones you value most, and whether or not you think the candidate you're looking for will be able to work on those weaknesses quicker than everybody else.
Right. How do they build the staff around them? Do they get a bunch of yes men, yes women, or do they build out and say, look, I'm not, this isn't my strength, so I need somebody in my office who can kind of bolster our office as the aggregate because of where maybe I'm not as strong. I'm going to go find somebody who can be strong in those areas. And so that's will be interesting. I hope that's part of the interview process is, how do they envision building that staff around them or the roles that they play? Because again, that was one of the other concerns with Sabo was blowing out some of those people and putting in others that just are going to be yes men or yes women. But trying to build out a full administrative staff that can handle the load at an institution like Utah State that has big things coming with that change to the Pac-12. One other thing before we take another time out, Utah State related, is that we know who Utah State is going to play in the opening week. It's been UTEP.
Do we?
We've known that UTEP...
We've known that for a while.
For a long time. We haven't really known who the quarterback under center is going to be for the Miners. We had some guesses, but today, sounds like they made it official. They're actually finally going to go with the guy that's had lots of hype, but hasn't really been able to deliver much. And now we know who Utah State's going to face next week.
Yeah, see, I was pretty darn sure that the quarterback was going to be Locklear. I suddenly forgot his first name. Starts with an S. Why can't I remember his first? Skylar Locklear. It looked like from what the reporting, I have to rely on other people's reporting because I don't follow UTEP that closely. But from what I'd seen, Skylar Locklear was the starter for them last year. Was going to be the starter this year, but Malachi Nelson, who's former number 1 overall recruit in 2023, that's about the only thing anybody's ever said about him for 2 years. He may or may not be sick of it at this point. That's what they said when he was at USC. Then he transfers to Boise State. Oh, we got the former number 1 overall recruit. And then he doesn't win the job, loses out to Maddox Madsen. Now he comes to UTEP. He's taking steps down that ladder, trying to find someone who will finally start him. I wasn't sure he was going to get the starting job at UTEP. I was actually pretty sure he was going to be the backup, but turns out I was wrong. That almost never happens, Eric. And by almost never, I mean it happens all the dadgum time. But I was wrong here, so Malachi Nelson will be the starting quarterback for the UTEP Miners. Might have to go update my opponent preview because I asserted that I thought Skylar Locklear was going to be the quarterback, and now it's Malachi Nelson.
There you go. So, we'll see if the hype finally is worth it.
Yeah, see if the hype pays off.
Figured a few things out. I mean, he was able to beat out another guy to get that job.
I mean, Locklear wasn't exactly stellar to begin with, but
yeah, true. So
UTEP was 2-10 last year, like 3-10. I forget what's
kind of low bar to clear.
Yeah, they weren't very good last year.
All right, quick time out here in the Full Court Press. When we come back, it's Thursday, so we're going to try to predict what will happen this weekend with Pick 6.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Medicare can seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Let us help. We'll answer all your questions and get you specific information that fits your needs. Medicare is not one size fits all. We'll help you find the right coverage for you. Call 752-9493. You can ignore the TV and the junk mail. We'll get you the exact information you need. We will help you access the benefits that are important to you. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493.
While you're making memories this summer, on the lake, in the mountains, or around the fire pit, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you plan for days to come. Adams Wealth Advisors loves being your trusted neighbor and believes that smart financial planning is the key to a life well lived. Whether you're nearing retirement or just getting started, let Adams Wealth Advisors build a plan that gives you peace of mind today and tomorrow. Google Adams Wealth Advisors for a free consultation today. Local roots, lifelong guidance.
Ready or not, business owners, summer is here. So let's beat the heat while keeping energy costs down. With WattSmart from Rocky Mountain Power, get advice and rebates for smart cooling strategies, resulting in savings and a stronger bottom line. Earn cash incentives on energy-efficient equipment, enroll in programs designed to reduce energy consumption during peak hours, and cut costs without sacrificing comfort. Saving energy and money? Now that's smart business. Visit wattsmart.com today and start saving.
It's time to make the outdoor living improvements you've talked about. Castellite in Logan has everything you need to turn your backyard get-together into a backyard event. If you need pavers for a walkway, a retaining wall for your garden, or to reshape a flower bed, or a fire pit to roast marshmallows, think Castellite. Their experts will reduce your DIY stress for brick, block, rock, paver, and tile. Go where the pros go. Online at Castellite.com.
Express Tires for less.
Safety and comfort on the road are Express Tire's top priority. As a Point S team member, count on peace of mind with an inclusive warranty that includes nationwide protection. Any brand, any size, better pricing. No appointment necessary on the highway at 3200 North Main.
Express Tires for less.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the full court press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
If you need a local mechanic you can trust, visit one of your locally owned Napa Auto Care Centers. You can find one by visiting napaonline.com or by calling your local Napa store. Of course, these are folks from our community serving you with expertise and integrity. Each of them are locally owned, just like your Napa store from Preston to Providence. So on Thursdays, we try to predict what will happen. And Jason has 3 lines. I take 3 lines. And we like to call it Pick Six. And Pick Six doesn't want to play.
Oh, the story of our day.
Yes.
It has gone to heck in a handbasket. Well, Eric, you can sing the Pick Six thing instead.
We'll pick 3 lines from me and 3 lines from you. And we'll have a tiebreaker.
All right. Well, Eric, you won last time.
That's the extent of it.
You won last time. That means you get to pick who goes first.
I'll go first.
All right.
Okay. Which team will have the most passing yards in week 0? UNLV or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
I'm going to take UNLV. NFL preseason game, Green Bay taking on Seattle. Green Bay by 3.5.
I'll take Seattle.
So you're going to take Seattle to cover. Okay, yep. I'll take Green Bay to cover. Okay, let's see. Wyatt Bowles snaps at when the Rams are at Cleveland. 65.5.
I'll go under.
Okay, I'm going to take the over. Okay, your 3 lines.
All right, Utah State, they're taking on Pacific tonight, women's soccer. So I've got Utah State by 3.5 goals. This one, they won by 6 last year. They're going to go over under that.
I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the under.
Wow, okay.
I'm probably going to regret that later. They'll be up by like 8 goals. And I'll be like, dang it. Why do I have to be contrarian? Mountain West wins in football in week 0 games. There's 3 of them. I set the line at 1.5. I
I
presume UNLV can beat Idaho State, but can they get another with Hawaii taking on Stanford and Fresno State? I forget who they're playing.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh, I think I have it right in front of me, so I can tell you. They're playing Kansas.
That's right. You said it at 1.5?
1.5. So basically, does anyone other than UNLV win?
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the over as well. And then you mentioned pass yards with some of these Mountain West teams. Well, I just went one specific quarterback, Micah Alejado, pass yards against Stanford. Over under 230.5.
I will take the over.
I was going to take the over.
You still can.
Fine, I'll take the over. And then, Eric, you got the tiebreaker.
All right, I got the tiebreaker. WNBA matchup, the Dallas Wings versus the Golden State Valkyries. So Dallas versus Golden State. I believe this is on Sunday. Paige Becker's points in this matchup, setting it at 19.5.
I'll take the over.
Okay, I'll take the under.
She had 44 the other day, I think.
Yes, she did. She set a new record, a rookie record.
There you go.
For points.
She is a walking bucket.
Yes, she is. And the WNBA also announced that they set an attendance record for the year.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Doing pretty good. Even with Caitlin Clark not playing as much due to injuries, they're still
she's
growing.
on the shelf. Unlikely to play anymore for the rest of the season. So those are our lines for Pick Six. On Monday, we'll go back through and see how well we did in trying to predict.
Yeah, we'll see how I did. Utah State managed to win by less than 4 goals. That'll be a surprise, but gotta stick to my guns.
Yes, that's true. So, that's apologies for how things went earlier in the show today. For those who only listened in the 5 o'clock hour, it was pretty much, a normal show.
Yeah, you might not have realized how scuffed things were.
But we pretty much lost the entire 4 o'clock hour.
We didn't think we were going to have a show today.
Yeah, we were starting into just recording a podcast, and then as we were in the middle of it, we were told, you guys are good. So we
it's like, you're on the air now. It's like, oh, okay.
Okay, we'll just roll.
We're up. So
we'll go.
Glad you can come in. We're, technical difficulties or not, still a full court press.
Yeah, but I'm glad we're able to get some of those resolved so we could still have a show and be with you today and get some of the interaction on the text line as well. Fingers crossed that everything will go fine tomorrow because we got a lot of high school football games tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff I've already planned half of tomorrow's show is going to be a good one.
Yeah, a lot on the docket to discuss, and a big weekend too with the return of college football. Week 2 of high school football. We got NFL preseason games, so a lot going on. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back at it again tomorrow.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.